Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. The top headlines tonight. A 6 lakh crore monetization plan of public assets. The government outlines assets including roads, railways, airports, also stadiums. Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium is on the list of assets up for private management for 30 years. However, the finance minister says we are not actually selling any of these assets. They'll all be owned by the government. This is a brownfield project. This will be given for private management. Arch rivals Nitish Kumar and Tejasvi Yadav joined common cause with other Bihar parties. The Prime Minister meets a Nitish-led delegation on the caste census. The Bihar Chief Minister says the Bihar and the country want this. Now it's up to the Prime Minister. Tejasvi Yadav says if animals and trees are counted, why not humans? Assaulted and beaten brutally, a Muslim bangle seller in Indore. Shockingly, the Home Minister almost justifies this, saying the bangle seller had given a wrong name. At first he said he was a Hindu, then said he was a Muslim. A case filed only after hundreds protests at the Indore police station. The larger worry is about a mob versus minorities. 4 incidents in recent months. Team Sidhu in a huge row over Kashmir and Pakistan remarks by his advisors. A Sidhu advisor says Kashmir belongs to Kashmir. It's not part of India or Pakistan. Strong reaction as Congress MP Manish Tiwari says these people shouldn't even be in India, and the Chief Minister says this is totally anti-national. The good news on COVID numbers, the sharpest fall in 7 weeks. In Karnataka, senior schools open today in most districts. The Chief Minister says it is Freedom Day for the students. Meanwhile, West Bengal's Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee says Bengal schools will open after Durga Puja. India's first smog tower to fight air pollution now in Delhi, but experts question it. The Chief Minister inaugurating it says we must try new ideas. Our lead story tonight, a 6 lakh crore monetization plan of government assets released today by the Finance Minister and the Niti Aayog. The Finance Minister stressed that this does not mean that the ownership of these assets will pass away from the Government of India. It will almost be like leasing assets. Amongst the assets included are power, ports, railways, roads, airports, telecom. So almost every sector has assets which are up for long leases and private management. Also stadiums, including Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium, which is up for lease for 30 years.
The government today launched an ambitious program to monetize 6 lakh crores from assets such as roads, railways, power sector, airports, ports, telecom and even stadiums, each projected at tens of thousands of crores. The private sector is expected to bid for these.
For those who have this question in your mind, which means are we selling away the lands? No, this infrastructure national monetization pipeline is talking about brownfield assets. Ownership of assets remains with the government. There will be a mandatory hand back. They'll have to give back after a certain time. All this will generate greater value and it will unlock resources for the economy.
The government's target is to monetize all of this by March 2025. But 6 lakh crores is a lot. So how much of it is actually cash in the bank or direct revenue for the government? The government says this monetization value may either be in the form of upfront accruals, that is cash in bank, or by the way of private sector investment. The fine print reads, the potential value assessed is only an indicative high-level estimate based on thumb rules.
Objective is that instead of government providing money through the budgetary sources for infrastructure creation, existing infrastructure are better managed through private sector, and that money is used for more and more and more and more infrastructure creation. Why should the Government of India Finance Minister provide outlays to the road sector if road sector can raise more and more resources and provide?
So basically, government underutilized assets will be monetized and they hope to get 88,000 crores this year and subsequently 1.5 lakh crores every year till 2025. Either way, they believe this will help not only in getting the government some money and budgetary support, but also to kickstart the economy. With camera person Pooja Arya, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
Well, the big political story tonight, arch rivals Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and his ex-Deputy Chief Minister Tejaswi Yadav were part of a common delegation to meet Prime Minister Modi today. This to demand that caste must be included in census. This has been a demand in recent months because these parties say that without knowing exact caste numbers, how do you actually decide on how much reservation schemes or welfare schemes should be for OBCs? However, this has been resisted by other parties, earlier the BJP. But now the BJP's Sushil Modi has also backed this demand.
Bitter rivals from Bihar exchanging pleasantries, a rare occurrence in Indian politics now, where a state-level delegation from Bihar, led by Chief Minister Nitish Kumar himself and accompanied by strongest critic and opponent Tejaswi Yadav. This unity is for a common cause, allowing caste-based census, an exercise stopped since 1931.
बिहार में सब लोगों की राय है और यही नहीं बल्कि देश भर में लोगों की राय है, इसलिए हम लोगों ने अपनी बात रखा। बहुत ही उन्होंने हम लोगों की बात को सुना है, हम सब उनके आभारी हैं।
जब जानवरों के लिए हो रहा है, गिनती के लिए, पर्यावरण के लिए हो रहा है, पेड़ पौधों के लिए हो रहा है, तो आपको पता तो चलेगा कि भाई कौन किस जात के हैं, तभी तो रिजर्वेशन में भी लागू करने में भी लोगों को सहूलियत होगी।
First, the basics. This demand for a comprehensive data on different castes in census is not a new one. However, the practice was discontinued pre-independence in 1931. It was stopped as legislators then feared there will be a divisive impact. The data on scheduled castes and scheduled tribes were part of census since 1951. Since then, there has been a reliance on estimates for caste data. There has been a strong demand for caste-based census where many parties have been in favor. They say that it will help in drafting developmental policies. Mulayam Singh and Lalu Yadav were the strongest proponents, simply because it affected the caste-driven politics in UP and Bihar. But not all are in favor of this exercise, at least not without weighing options. Sources say some within the central government argue that this is an enormous and costly exercise and it might defeat the very purpose behind scrapping it, as it may create further divide in the society. BJP's own position over the years on the caste census has changed from supporting to opposing to now observing. Nitish Kumar thinks that after initially being opposed to the idea, the centre may be warming up to it. The BJP even backed a resolution in the Bihar Assembly.
मोदी जी तो उस समय थे ही उप मुख्यमंत्री जब ये प्रस्ताव पारित हुआ, तो उन्होंने तो कहा ही है कि हाँ इसके पक्ष में सभी लोग हैं। निर्णय तो केंद्र सरकार का, निर्णय तो आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का।
Getting a caste census done is easier said than done. There are huge logistical issues and wide-ranging political implications. Either way, the political clamour has started from Bihar, but it's with Uttar Pradesh in mind that the political demand continues and will have huge implications, including increasing the reservation for those who are marginalized above 50%. With Sanket Upadhyay, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
Well, the government has now asked for an all-party meeting with leaders of the opposition on the Afghanistan crisis on the 26th of August. The External Affairs Minister tweeted that the Prime Minister has instructed the Foreign Ministry to brief floor leaders of political parties on the developments in Afghanistan. This will happen on this Thursday. Moving now to our special focus on what really is the story which is becoming tragically too familiar, the mob versus an individual, often of a minority. Just a few weeks ago, we saw a man being mercilessly thrashed with his daughter holding on to him crying because he had to say Jai Shri Ram. Today, once again, a bangle seller in Indore, a Muslim bangle seller, has been thrashed apparently because he gave a false name while selling bangles of a Hindu. The Home Minister has almost justified this beating, saying, why did he give a false name? But this 25-year-old was also robbed of 10,000 rupees by his assailants during the incident, and a case was filed only when hundreds gathered at the police station.
25-year-old Taslim beaten up by a group of men at Banganga in Indore while he was selling bangles. First, allegedly because he was holding the women's hands, and then after assailants found 2 ID cards in his possession, one with a Hindu name, another with a Muslim one. None of the bystanders tried to help.
यहाँ पे माल घोंस लिया, मोबाइल भी तोड़ दिया। उसके बाद ये बहाना लगाने लगे कि ये कौन है, मुसलमान है।
3 persons were arrested for rioting, assault, robbery, intimidation and trying to disturb communal harmony. But only after hundreds of people from Muslim outfits get out the police station demanding action. The police filed a case against the protesters too.
पुलिस ने उस पे मुकदमा दर्ज किया है, गंभीर धाराओं में मुकदमा दर्ज किया है। पुलिस ने जो है उस वीडियो से आरोपियों की पहचान कर ली है। इसमें मुख्य रूप से ये मुद्दा है कि इसमें उसके साथ पीड़ित के साथ मारपीट हुई है। आगे वो किससे जुड़े हुए थे, किससे नहीं जुड़े हुए थे, ये विवेचना का विषय है, वो विवेचना में क्लियर होगा।
एसडीपीआई और पीएफआई को बहुत बारीकी नजर हम लोग रख रहे हैं, इंटेलिजेंस भी रख रहा है, इसमें पुलिस भी रख रही है। जो हम लोग को देखने में आ रहा है कि युवा वर्ग को कई जगह पे इस प्रकार की इनके पदाधिकारी आकर कल भी जो देखने में आया, जो हम लोग को सूचना मिली, उन लोगों ने भड़काने का प्रयास किया।
The State Home Minister said the incident should not be given communal color, though he added it was not correct to give out false names, castes and religion.
हिंदू नाम रखा हुआ था दूसरे समुदाय से। आधार कार्ड भी इसी तरह के 2 मिले हैं। बेटियों को, बहुओं को वो सावन के दिन चूड़ियां पहनाने का ज्यादा हमारे यहाँ पर परंपरा है। वहां से विवाद शुरू हुआ।
There is growing concern as several incidents of communal clashes have taken place in Indore in the last few days. 2 minor girls of the Valmiki community were molested and their uncle allegedly assaulted at Bombay Bazaar. On 15th August, 2 persons were injured in a street fight sparked by slogans at a flag-hoisting event described as provocative. And at another Independence Day event in the Rajbara area, religious slogans were raised.
No one can take law into their own hands, and it's equally shameful that someone has to use fake identity to earn his bread and butter. In Bhopal, with camera person Rizwan Khan and Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
Well, moving to the other headline, controversial statements by 2 key advisors announced to the new State Congress chief Navjot Singh Sidhu. One advisor saying Kashmir belongs to Kashmir, not India, Pakistan. The other one seeming to praise the Taliban. The Punjab chief minister has hit out at these advisors, saying their statements are anti-national. And Congress MP Manish Tiwari today said that these people shouldn't even be allowed to stay in India who don't think that Jammu and Kashmir is part of India. This as the Congress seems to once again be racked with infighting just months before the assembly elections.
The election clock is ticking, but Punjab Congress can't stop fighting themselves. Now, comments from the state chief Navjot Sidhu's advisors have drawn fire from Punjab Chief Minister, who's called them totally anti-national. One of Sidhu's new party officials, Malvinder Mali, controversially said last week India had illegally usurped Kashmir. Malvinder Mali also said that Taliban will improve the country. Mali shared the cover page of the June 1989 issue of a Punjabi magazine titled Jantak Paigam, which he edited back then. The tagline of the title said, "Every repression is defeated."
जो मैं कहना मेरे सोशल मीडिया ते कहा होया ओही फाइनल आ। मेरा सोशल मीडिया देखो, मेरी पोस्टां देखो, ओही मेरा वर्षन आ।
Another advisor, Dr. Pyare Lal Garg, a social activist and former registrar of Baba Farid University of Health Sciences, questioned the Chief Minister's criticism of Pakistan. Sidhu has come under intense criticism from his party colleagues.
जो व्यक्ति ये मानते ही नहीं कि जम्मू कश्मीर भारत का हिस्सा है, तो क्या उनको इस मुल्क में, पार्टी तो आप छोड़िए, इस मुल्क में भी रहने का हक है?
Though Sidhu has not spoken on the issue, but he took a pot shot at the CM questioning the state government, supporting the protest by sugarcane farmers. Punjab's in charge Harish Rawat said statements were twisted. There's a possibility that political advantage is being sought.
मैंने जानकारी ली थी सिद्धू जी और कुछ लोगों का कहना है कि बयान को ट्विस्ट किया गया है और चुनाव के समय में बहुत संभव है और उसका पॉलिटिकल एडवांटेज लेना भी संभव है.
Party High Command has sent Harish Rawat to broker peace between Captain Amrinder Singh and State President Navjot Singh Sidhu. But 6 months ahead of polls, if both the leaders continue to display differences, the road ahead for 2022 polls won't be an easy task for Congress Party. In Chandigarh, Mohammad Ghazali for NDTV.
Well, moving to our special report, a draft charge sheet submitted by the country's top anti-terror agency against the Bhima Koregaon 16 levies tough anti-terror charges against them. Some of the charges include a life sentence. A special court in Mumbai now has to accept this. But many are asking how it is that the NIA has diluted their own charges, which the Pune police had made, that this was a conspiracy against the Prime Minister. Now there's no mention of that.
Sudha Bhardwaj and several other well-known activists charged in the Elgar Parishad case in connection with the Bhima Goregaon violence are guilty of waging war against India, says the NIA. Charges that carry the potential of life or even the death sentence. In its draft charges, the Federal Investigative Agency, the NIA, makes no specific mention of the activists in a plot to kill the Prime Minister, a sensational claim made by the Pune police which initially booked the activists in 2018. Instead, the NIA in its draft charges says the accused plotted to kill an unnamed public functionary. In all, the NIA has listed 17 charges against the accused, setting the stage for the beginning of the much-delayed trial in the Elgar Parishad case in connection with the Bhima Goregaon violence, which has sparked widespread criticism for being used to target the government's critics. Most of these activists have been in jail since 2018. One of them, the ailing 84-year-old Father Stan Swami, died in July this year, awaiting trial after his arrest last year. But the NIA in its draft says it has evidence to bolster its claims that the accused were members of the banned terror outfit CPI Maoist. Multiple doubts have been raised over these claims, including a series of reports from the US-based forensic lab Arsenal Consulting, which found that the laptops of at least 2 of the accused had been hacked and incriminating material planted. Framing of charges marks the commencement of the trial, and at this stage the prosecution lists the charges against the accused and the evidence to be relied upon. The accused can plead guilty or challenge the prosecution, and the court has to decide whether the accused have to face trial or can be discharged. In this case, the accused have been jailed for almost 3 years or even more without a trial, raising questions over their human rights. In Mumbai, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
This, as the Supreme Court has continuously said, bail should be the norm, jail the exception. Are these activists all terrorists? Well, the country's top anti-terror agency filing charges saying they think so. Let's see what the court says. But meanwhile, news on COVID data. Well, a huge drop, the sharpest fall in 7 weeks, as there are now over 12% fewer cases than previous weeks. Also, cases are down to 31,970. That's the lowest since mid-March. But tests are also down 20% from the end May peak. But good news there on the numbers. Let's just look at the last 24 hours. Well, we're just over 25,000 cases. That's much less than Sunday. Also, let's just look at the deaths. 389 deaths falling as well. Tests have gone down. Remember, yesterday was Rakhi and a Sunday. The daily positivity rate continues to be less than 2%. And with those numbers continuing to come down, schools in Karnataka opened today, except in 5 districts where the positivity rate is high, like Dakshin Kannada, Mysuru and others. The Karnataka Chief Minister visited schools and said that this is like Freedom Day for the students who are actually back at school today.
As you all know, about 15 days back, we had decided to open the schools on August 23rd, and today is the first day. I have talked to the teachers, principals, as well as students. Students are all very happy. Primary schools from 1st to 8th standard. That will take a call at the end of this month.
Today, your college is open. What is your opinion?
My opinion is good safety measure and safety hygiene is enough.
Then you prepared online class or offline class?
I prepare online class, but best offline classes.
Why?
Because online class is so many network problems and all, but offline is not at all.
Meanwhile, the Delhi Chief Minister today inaugurated India's first smog tower in Delhi, India's most polluted city. The Delhi government says it's a big step against air pollution. While experts are questioning it, Mr. Kejriwal said, I'm sure this will prove to be a big milestone.
टावर अब फंक्शनल हो गया। आप देख सकते हैं इसके पंखों ने काम करना शुरू किया है। अभिवादन किया उनका बिजली बनाने के लिए विभाग मेहनत कर रहे हैं। नए नए प्रयास करने चाहिए। हमने ये नया प्रयास किया और अगर ये सक्सेसफुल होता है तो इस तरह के और कई सारे लगा सकते हैं। अगर सक्सेसफुल नहीं होता है तो फिर और दूसरी कोई तकनीक लेके आएंगे।
Well, let's look at international COVID news. The United States Food and Drug Regulatory Authority has granted Pfizer the full approval for its COVID vaccine for people aged 16 and older. Earlier, it had emergency use authorization, but this is the first COVID vaccine to actually get full regular approval for its vaccine.